Welcome to what I plan will be the first of several videos looking at the history of prison, and where better to start than the first house of correction, Bridewell Palace. In 16th century England, a house of correction did exactly what it said on the tin. They were established to correct what was considered as disorderly behaviour. Petty criminals and citizens considered idle would receive whippings and be subjected to intense periods of hard labour. The first house of correction was opened in 1553 at the former residence of King Henry VIII, Bridewell Palace. From then on, houses of corrections became known as Bridewells. The name Bridewell was taken from the nearby Holy Well, St Bride's Church. This copperplate map of London surveyed between 1553 and 1559 shows the former Bridewell Palace with its frontage on the River Thames, and also at the entrance of the River Fleet. St Bride's Church, circled in blue, is at the top end of the river. In this 1750 painting by Samuel Scott, you can see the entrance to the Fleet River, which is now the largest of London's subterranean rivers. However, the river now carries London's sewage, and of course, the river also gave its name to Fleet Street. Ludgate Circus now occupies the site of the former crossing known as Fleet Bridge. In this same year Henry VIII ascended the throne, 1509, he appointed Thomas Wolsey, his future Lord Chancellor, to the post of almoner. An almoner originally is a chaplain or officer of the church in charge of distributing funds to the poor. Then, in 1510, Wolsey built a house, Bridewell House, on the site of the old St Bride's public house, close to the church. Since Saxon times, Westminster had been the centre of government and court. However, following a fire in 1512 that destroyed a large part of Westminster Palace, Henry VIII was without a palace in London. In 1515, Wolsey moved into his newly built residence, Hampton Court, and transferred Bridewell House to Henry, and it became Bridewell Palace. But when Wolsey refused to annul Henry's marriage to Catherine of Aragon in 1530, the cardinal was stripped of all of his titles and kicked out of Hampton Court. Bridewell Palace ceased to be a royal palace when Henry VIII moved into what is now Hampton Court Palace. Fast forward to 1553 and King Henry VIII's son, Edward VI, passes Bridewell over to the City of London to use as a prison for petty offenders. Some of the offences included prostitution, pilfering, fraud, being a runaway, disorderly apprentice and servants, begging, and a host of other types of disorderly conduct including swearing, drunkenness and assault, or simply loose, idle and disorderly conduct. Bridewell closed as a prison by 1855 and come 1864 the prison buildings were demolished. The only evidence left behind is the former gatehouse with a carving of Edward VI in the arch located in Blackfriars, London. I'd like to finish this brief history of Bridewell with a verse that was taken from a poem written by John Taylor titled The Praise and Virtue of Jail and Jailers. Bridewell unto my memory comes next, where idleness and lechery is vexed. This is a royal house of state and port, court, which the 8th King Henry built and there kept. King Edward, somewhat ere his timeless fall, gave it away to be an hospital, which use the city puts it well unto, and many pious deeds there thou do. But yet for vagabonds and runagates, for whores and idle knaves and such like mates, 'tis little better than allowed to those blows, where they chop chalk for meat and drink, and in this house those that gainst their wills do dwell, love well a bride perhaps, but not Bridewell.